drama may be out of sync, but we're full of spit and vigor because we've got Sara Fellini here, who just wrote this brilliant play called The Wake of Dorcas Kelly. And she is an IT award winner, a Planet Connection Festival Theater Award winner. She's done other historical events like the other Mozart and Voyeur. So we are so pleased to have her on. Welcome, Sara Fellini.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Really lovely to see you, Sara. The first time I saw you, I believe, was when you were doing Mary's Little Monster, which was a really lovely thing on Mary Shelley. You seem to be very much involved in historical things.
Yeah. Our company does tend to focus on, I think probably just because I am a woman, and so I write from my own perspective. And we do try to, when we write historical plays, we try to, or when I write historical plays and when we choose which historical plays to do, usually it's taking some kind of perspective that's been ignored in the past or hasn't been as explored. And then we just, write a play from the viewpoint of, someone who really wouldn't have been very listened to in that time period.
Dorcas Kelly was a real person, was she not?
Yeah, Dorcas Kelly was a real person. She was a brothel madam in 1700s in Dublin, and she was executed because she shot a man in the street and was arrested and summarily charged for that. And then after her execution, a riot ensued. There was she was pretty infamous, and her execution was a big deal. And after, that's the true story, that she was a brothel madam that was executed. And then after she died, a legend started occurring that when they gathered for her wake, they kind of barricaded themselves, her friends barricaded themselves in the brothel. And when they were having the wake, they started finding the bodies of young men that she had slaughtered. That is probably not true, but it is the premise of the play.
Oh, I didn't think you'd want to give away that part.
I don't mind.
Because nobody knows the history of it. So it was brand new to me. And why did it cause a rioting? And they stole her body from Potter Field? And there was such a gruesome way to kill someone, to execute justice.
Actually, a common way for women to be executed. Men, when they were executed, they were just hanged. Women were partially hanged, which is gruesome. They would be hanged by a short rope, and they would suffocate them to a certain point, and then they would burn them to death.
Oh.
I guess because I think that they would view as a witch. Yes, you burn them as a witch. Yeah,
so
to kind of
they viewed all women criminals as witches, as being witchcraft. Goodness sakes. Oh my heavens! Well, we have changed a little. I don't know if things are any better, but we are changing a little. Thank God.
Things are probably better than that. I would say.
But weren't men drawn and quartered though? I mean, I remember men, weren't they hung and then they were drawn and quartered? I mean, they never wanted to kill someone outright. They liked people to suffer. I guess it was the entertainment of the day.
And I guess, and if your body is dismembered or brutalized in some manner, if you're a Catholic, at least, that would kind of impact. I think that no, I grew up Catholic, but now I'm blanking on. There's something about like if you destroy the body, it kind of is an extra punishment to them spiritually.
They also thought it was good for the soul. I mean, when they would burn someone, I had a discussion, and my partner Billy, who has studied a great deal of comparative religion, said that they believed it was saving the soul to burn them, and that they should suffer first because that helped save their soul from suffering.
How did you get interested in Dorcas Kelly? What prompted?
I think I read an article about her. I actually can't remember exactly. I usually I'll latch on to whenever I hear articles or maybe a podcast or something about whenever there's a historical woman that's kind of unlikable or towering or something, I always latch onto those stories and then just start my research from there. So I'll hear, an inkling of someone that I'm thinking about writing next is Anne Bonny, the pirate, the woman pirate in the 1700s. who is it who fell, I obviously haven't started my research yet, but she fell in love with another woman pirate that was in the same kind of area. There's a lot of women pirates, actually. We don't really explore them too much.
So how did you do research for this person? And how was she more infamous than others? And what was the role of prostitutes back then?
I basically just researched the time. I know I don't really, honestly, I wouldn't call this play like a biography of Dorcas Kelly, because I kind of just researched what a prostitute would be, how they would live in that time, and kind of just surmise from there and kind of fit it to the because there's really not a lot of information about her at all. There's a pub in Ireland that was her, or claims to have been her brothel, and it's called Darky Kelly's in Dublin. So I basically just I looked at a bunch of kind of extant resources from that time that would describe the life of prostitutes in that time period, and then I basically just research around the time period and kind of invent a story that loosely connected the bullet points of her life.
Actually, they had a culture, a subculture, very much like our theater culture, in which we're all in touch with one another. Why these prostitutes, they lived and they were happy with, many of them were happy with their positions. They were doing better than they could do in other ways, and it was very social and, of course, very combative.
Yeah, we try to explore those kind of, I feel like a lot of our plays explore like kind of a group of like a merry band of people who are living like alternative lifestyles in history, because I think we like that kind of attitude as a theater company.
You're the interesting ones, they're the fun ones.
Well, yeah, I think a lot of theater now is a little bit it's very produced, and it's very I don't know, there's a lot of tech and stuff, and I think we like to kind of try to bring it back to the roots of like just a bunch of people like coming together and putting on something that's very intimate and exciting. And so I think, yeah, we do tend to like do plays also about those people.
Kind of interesting myself, and having been in the theater a lot, as you all have been, that we are also outliers in a very real sense a lot of the time, and we feel that way a lot of the time. Sexual orientation, various things of that sort, and really they're the most interesting people to find.
Also, I found it fascinating that like one of the prostitutes, she was married, but she kept wanting to revisit the prostitutes again. And one of the women had an opportunity to get married, but she preferred to be a prostitute because it's more freeing, because once you're married, you're that man's chattel. So there was this one interesting power structure. And then there was that guy who was a pirate, and they kept teasing him because he was a pirate. And then you had a priest that you kidnapped to make sure she had the last rites, because being a Catholic, they were real, even though they were prostitutes, they really took the religion and being Catholic and having all the proper respect shown. It was just fascinating, all the points you made.
Because we're all very, very smooth, and you write marvelous dialogue. You write very good integrated dialogue, which is something that I really admire.
Thank you. We ran it past an Irish person who approved it. The Irish isn't. So.
Okay. Are you especially interested in Irish themes?
My family, I'm like half Italian, half Irish, and so one part of my family is very proud of being Irish. I mostly just like historical places, and I usually just go from the story and then explore the place and time from there. But yeah, Irish history is very interesting.
Yeah,
why did they tease him about being a pirate so much? Because that one guy, they kept teasing him about being a pirate.
I thought there was a gay angle to that, because, like that he might have been used by the pirates, forced to do whatever the pirates wanted him to do, including sex.
Well, that is one thing I always try to include at least a little bit in my plays, because I think that sometimes we disappear gay people, and it's not, I mean, this play actually isn't a good example of it because it's very brief and very, very small a bit, but yeah, so I think people, like have existed in all ways forever, and like we think that in history that like it didn't exist or that nobody ever talked about it. It's not true. But yeah, I think part of it was that the character you're referring to, William, was kidnapped by pirates. And when you're kidnapped by pirates in this time, like you kind of just do what pirates want you to do, no matter what that is. And so they kind of make like the sex workers in the brothel kind of make light of it. And then I think there's also a complication of like, in this time, piracy is like basically anything that's like any crime that's like within a certain amount of distance from a body of water. And so you can commit any crime on land, but then, it immediately becomes a hanging crime when it's piracy. And so accusing someone of piracy is a great way to hold something over on them. And William happens to be he's a character that deals with a lot of addiction issues and happens to be very volatile. And I think for the women in the brothel, he's a big problem. And so I think they kind of grasp that whatever power they could possibly have over him, and part of that would be accusing him of piracy in a teasing way, so that it doesn't really anger him that much. But
He's also their security guard during the riot.
yeah, because he's like connected to the army, and he's connected to these naval people. You figure that the madam of the brothel, or the new madam, she kind of uses the fact there's like a part of the play where we kind of refer vaguely many times to this thing that William did. He did something 2 weeks ago, and it was he threw some kind of fit, and whatever he did, he's embarrassed about it. And so he owes us a favor. And so he's guarding the brothel while we have the body in the brothel.
It's a very handsome production, by the way. It's, your costumes are absolutely marvelous. It seems so detailed and so carefully thought out. And I don't know whether it was just because it was fun seeing a set on the stage for the first time in a year and a half, but I really enjoyed it a lot. And you had a smoke effect at the end, which was really cool, I thought.
And I love the music in it too. You had lovely, you had all these wonderful musical interludes as well.
Love the people and the lighting. It really seemed very painterly.
Yes, our lighting designer Chelsea is incredible. We always try to use her when we can. She's a great lighting designer.
So why do you think that it was a violent time? Why this particular crime should cause such a riot? That they needed security, and they had to sneak in and out of windows and everything.
I think it was it was more that the body was stolen back. It was kind of that the women so she was hanged and burned, and then her body was buried in a potter's field, and she wasn't given any kind of like name or recognition or anything. And her friends snuck in, stole the body, and brought it back to the brothel. And I think, and to like basically, I think that's like they were just kind of rejecting the crown's assertion that she's nothing and nameless, and they're giving her back her name and her identity. And I think that's basically what caused the riot, is that it was a rejection of the crown. And so there are people that are going to feel inspired by that, and then there are also people who are going to reject that and be violent about it. And so I think those two things came together, and a riot kind of turned into like a party and just became like this kind of raucous event.
I wanted to ask about why you think this madam inspired. She was so notorious. Why did she inspire such loyalty amongst her workers?
You can see that a lot in life, where someone is very dramatic and inspiring and powerful, especially if you don't have a lot of power. I think, you can see that I don't want to refer to cult leaders or anything, but, you can see that in a lot of places where sometimes if you have a very strong personality, even if they're cruel, you kind of almost luxuriate in the cruel. There are people who, if they feel they have no power, they almost luxuriate in cruelty or in someone taking power back when they feel they have no power.
Well, thank you very much. This was fascinating conversation, and it's a fascinating play, and it's so wonderful. The acting and everything is just fabulous, and I love the plot, everything. So thank you so much. And you can read our review on High Drama, because we have a lot more to say on High Drama to talk about it.
Our second guest today is Lily Ali-Oshatz, the co-author of a new queer musical that Piper Theater has commissioned as part of their Musicals Now Festival, an event designed to foster local talent in Brooklyn. It's called Prospect Hill, and it will run in person at the Old Stonehouse in Brooklyn's Washington Park through July 24th. And I need to begin with an apology. For some reason that's still not clear, the first 2 minutes or so of her interview were destroyed by the tech gods, with whom probably most of us are now familiar. As a result, we'll be joining her now about 2 minutes into her interview.
So I'd lived in South Slope, Brooklyn since 2013, and I would go to Ginger's. I've been out as queer for a long time, since college. And I didn't know that I was standing in what used to be a very well-known lesbian neighborhood. And it actually took John McEnany, who is not a queer person, to tell me about my own history of this neighborhood that I lived in. And my reaction to that was one of frustration. So a lot of what is in the show is about how, as New Yorkers, how as queer people, how do we protect our history? How do we keep telling stories that are very worthwhile to hear and to share with the community? And for this pandemic world, how do we gather together as New Yorkers, as survivors of a very upsetting time, and value community, value families, and figure out how to have a healthy and fulfilling neighborhood. So to answer Mark's question, what did I find? I mean, I found a million things. We did a lot of community interviews. There was a lot of intergenerational dialogue. I'm 29 right now, so I'm on the younger end of the queer community, and I had a lot of interviews with people in their 60s, people all across the age bracket, and we learned a lot from each other. And that's something that is reflected in the storytelling in the show. One of the central friendships is between a younger queer person and a more mature queer person in her 60s, and what that collaboration, what can happen there with the intergenerational friendship.
I live on 3rd Street, so I can easily get there. I'll try to make sure I catch your show.
You're right there. You're also close to one of the locations that's on 1st Street and 5th Avenue. There are these historical vignettes that happen, and there's a mural that has a song in Act 2. So you're close to several of the locations that happen in the show.
How were you able to do the research in the first place? I mean,
oh my gosh, we went to the Lesbian Her Story archives. We reached out to Mickey Heller, is big in the Piper community, and he's also one of the co-chairs of Brooklyn Pride. So he helped introduce us to many different queer folks in the neighborhood. And I was also in touch with a lot of people through a project that I produced in 2020 called the Lesbian Bar Project. So through doing research for several kind of intersecting projects of mine, I met a lot of more mature queer people who I would not have met otherwise, like the owner of Cubby Hole, the owner of Henrietta Hudson, the owner of Ginger's, being able to talk to these women about their experiences, about what they know about creating a safe queer space was really valuable to then writing this musical. We did a lot of online research. I would say going in person to the Lesbian Her Story archives before the pandemic, when we were still able to go, was really exciting for Mark and I. And, you know, Mark is a cis man. We're both queer folks, but he is not a lesbian. I am a queer woman. But he was very much like, am I allowed there? And I was like, we're going to go. And I think actually a lot of the issues that we struggle with as queer New Yorkers is between that men versus women, and that gay men and gay women don't want to always occupy the same space together. So for Mark and I, it was very healing to be writing this story together, to be men and women and people who are non-binary, and be understanding, how do we come together? How do we support each other? And how do we uplift the stories that have been systematically forgotten from the musical theater canon? There is not a lot of lesbian representation in musical theater, and it is our job to write it in, and write it in an honest, authentic way.
Lillian, that really sounds marvelous and great stuff to be doing. I mean, to get across. Good for you.
I can't wait for you to see it. Yeah, it's raining, we're working around this rain, but the show must go on. It's going to be a beautiful time for everybody, no matter what.
What made John want to do this in the first place? I mean, what inspired him and come up with it, and then to give it to you and Mark to do?
Well, I think John has lived in the neighborhood since the 90s, and like the 80s and 90s, that was kind of the heyday of the lesbian neighborhood in Park Slope. So he has known the neighborhood pretty closely for a while. And one of the grants that he was writing, or just some of his work as a theater professional, was in how does his company interact with the history of the neighborhood where the company is based, because Piper Theater is very Park Slope based. So I think that's where it came from. He was like, what is the history of this community? What has happened here? And obviously Park Slope has a rich history. So much has happened there. But one part of it is this very recent history that already is forgotten. The fact that I lived and went to Ginger's, I was in the neighborhood, but because I didn't have queer elders, I'm not from New York, I did not know what history I was standing on top of. So I think it's important and it's key that we keep it up. We keep talking about it, whether people are gentrified out or not. It's good to know where we came from, and it's important to have those stories saved.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lily, for coming and joining us today. I really do appreciate it, and we were certainly looking forward to the show.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I'm gonna peace out and go to our rehearsal. Sarah, it was so wonderful to listen to your project. I can't wait to learn more about it.
Oh, and also, Lily, we have a mutual friend in common who's been on the show, and that's Ethan Hirsch. You've done his Broadway Cans and Broadway Meows.
Yes.
And you were, and before you wrote music, you were in a contest at Don't Tell Mamas.
I was.
I'll show you.
I have a dark cabaret past. Don't we all, right?
Yes. I love it when I put people's name in my and you all come up, it's like, oh, I've known you and not realized I've known you, just like you didn't know about the gay community in Park Slope, but there it is.
There it is. Rob was here. All right, have a beautiful day. Good to meet everybody.
Yeah, good, and break a leg.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. And now it's time for Reviewer's Corner. Starting with, and normally I'd have to go far away to go to Westport County Playhouse, but I could see it on my computer, and it was a brilliantly produced. I mean, you felt like you were there. I mean, what people can do with Zoom, like you don't even realize that people are in separate places. I mean, green screen has become amazingly used. Anyway, Michael Gotch's tiny house exposes layers of the human condition. Politics, climate change, social media, sins of the dad, loneliness, and poetical references are all fair game, including how to cook marmoset. It was an incredible production full of these wonderful, wacky characters and, mother-daughter, conflicts. And it was just so well done. And there was snappy dialogue, nice turn of phrases. And I enjoyed being in the company of these characters. And so I'm giving this a happy face, and you've got to July 18th to see this and meet all these wonderful characters. And now Mark and I are going to review Frumah, Sara, Waiting in the Wings. This is live at the Cell with the incomparably funny Jackie Hoffman, who shows us a different side to her character, and Kelly Kinsella, who is helping her get attached to the halter because she's waiting in the wings to do Frumah, Sara.
Well, I think the most exciting thing about it, we expected it to be hilarious once we know Jackie Hoffman's in it, but it was also incredibly moving. The problems of this aging alcoholic actress who's never really been given her chance to fly on stage in a real way.
And how, she's got this troubled marriage and, has difficult relationship with her daughter, and it's hard for her with her real estate job. And theater's supposed to be this wonderful escape for her, and isn't really. And then you have Kelly, who's also having troubles with her son and what to do. I mean, art versus your family.
A show that's very much worth seeing.
It's handled with style and compassion because they are real and recognizable, and we find the themes compelling, is what you said.
Well, thank you.
What kind of a face do we get?
Oh, a happy face.
I listened to the designated mourner. I have seen that play live. I think also it was in London at the National Theatre. I think maybe Harold Pinter was in it, if I'm not mistaken. And I loved it then also, because he's a humanist and he's very conscious of this difference between the society, the strata of society, very rich, very wealthy, very intellectual, you know, Park Avenue South type of people and Central Park, and very downtrodden and poor people. And it has been very disturbing. It's actually Wallace Shaw who's playing the character named Jack, who's married to Judy. And Judy is the daughter of a very wealthy, well-connected politically person named Harvard. And Jack loathes him. And his father-in-law says things like that to him. He says, my son-in-law, Jack, is lazy. He is so lazy that he only eats soup and mashed potatoes. That was a very funny line, right? Harvard has such contempt for his son-in-law. He said that he has the capacity of being like worse than an idiot, you know? And Jack says that his father-in-law has capacity for contempt for human beings who are like at the lowest possible level is immense. And the play is about, you know, the distinction between the wealth and the other people. And Wally Shawn is very disturbed about this division. And he says that the liberal society is becoming authoritarian and there's violence in the streets and leaders are horrible. And this is his topic in The Fever also. I have not watched the last part because I didn't have enough time. It's like everything is 30 minutes long and I will watch that. So I don't think there's like an ending, which is very different than what I just said, but he's a great writer and it's very wonderfully done. And it's very interesting to really hear the podcast because it reminded me of the BBC radio, you know, which I worked for a while in London, and they still listen to the radio plays. And this is a wonderful format in New York. I liked it a lot.
This has been a very exciting show, very historical, I must say, too. So our next show is, like I said, July 31st, and there's no time for listings. So I'm going to put together some listings and put it on the Facebook page. Just go to the Facebook page for all sorts of stuff, including Thoreau. I did a Thoreau thing that's closed that you really should read about.
Goodbye night, everybody, and thanks
Nice
so
to
much.
meet you, Sarah. Nice
And
to meet
Sarah,
you.
great
Thank
way
you.
down
Thank you so much for having me.
Proud for you.